So it's fairly good chance the majority of people at that venue will have seen the advertising poster, if it's been up for 4 weeks, at least 4 times, once a week. Some of them will go in every bloody day. The point is, every time they see it, it's repetition. That, oh, the hypnotist is on soon. Because it's a weird picture, it's somewhat unusual, they don't get hypnotists on that often. It gets them talking about it, and you'll get some people that are telling stories about how they went on holiday and somebody did this. Oh, I hope he doesn't get me to do that. Decipher what they've said. I hope he doesn't get me to do that. They're actually convincing themselves before you arrive that you could get them to do that. Or phrases like, oh, I hope he don't pick on me. Which is implying and brainwashing, conditioning themselves that if you were to pick on them, that they would respond. They're already hypnotising themselves through repetition, which is why it becomes so ridiculously easy. And, you know, that's why what we did this morning, albeit some of it was a little bit on the kooky side, in some upcharts when you're not physically touching somebody, there's something else going on. But it was made easier by the fact of A, who I am, B, you know who I am, if only through booking to come here. But more often than not, the majority of indeed, it becomes so ridiculously fucking easy. Because you've all already been brainwashed at some level before you came here. And it's the same with the stage hypnosis show. So your advertising is all important. It's the most important, it's more important than what you do, really, in terms of a stage show. In terms of a group therapy session, it is also more important than what you actually do. And in terms of therapy, it's also more important than what you actually do. Although we'll get into that more tomorrow. Okie dokie. Yeah, advertising sort of ties in with, okay, this is about the people who volunteer, so I'm going to separate it and use the word image in terms of advertising. Okay. If you want to make things as easy as possible for yourself, then go with stereotypes. Go with what people's preconceived ideas are. I am just a twat, really. I break every rule in the book. I do quite often the direct opposite of everything I tell other people to do. It just makes it more enjoyable for me to take it even further to the edge. But I would advise you, so that you get successful results more often, more easily, till you get a bit arrogant and egotistical like me and think, fuck it, doesn't matter how I do it, it's going to work. To go with the image of what people perceive and expect a stage hypnotist to be. This will apply to therapy as well tomorrow, but in a stage context, I'm afraid, like it or lump it, most stage hypnotists tend to wear the obligatory black evening suit, dress shirt, dicky bow. I know, sad. Unless your name's Paul McKenna, of course, or me. In which case, some really fucked up suits, you should probably see on the pictures on the side. You've got to go with the preconceived idea of show business, cheesy, old-time type act to make it easy for yourself. Now, in terms of longevity, if you were going to start doing this as a business and establishing yourself as a brand, an identity, celebrity, whatever angle you want to look at it at, or call yourself, then you would want to be becoming, when you have the confidence, that bit different. Build up your fan base, as it were, then become different, look different, dress differently, act a bit more OTT, because by then you'll have enough people that are going around saying how fucking brilliant you are, that will overcome the psychological objection and resistance of, who's this wanker in the suit that's half red, half blue and looks like a flipping circus clown? There comes a point where, you know, you can walk on stage and it's brilliant. I've got to I'm not going to do it now. I mean, unless you want me to. I like to lead by example, but I won't. There's a stage hypnotist that walks on stage wearing no clothes whatsoever. Ladies and gentlemen, please, walks on stage with no clothes whatsoever. And his advertising image is naked from the waist up, and it's called the Naked Hypnotist in America. He's actually only naked for about 3 minutes of the show. And that's right at the beginning. He walks on and he goes, "Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name's such and such. You may also know me as the Naked Hypnotist. And I'd just like to assure everybody here tonight that when you volunteer in a few moments' time and fill these chairs up, I won't be asking anybody to do anything I wouldn't be prepared to do myself." And that's his opening line, which gets a good laugh. And then as he's asking for volunteers, he starts putting his clothes back on, which relieves the thought of, oh, right, okay, he's not actually going to get us to get our kit off. But it's gimmicks like that that make the difference between you going out and getting paid the same as any other flipping jobbing stage hypnotist, which quite frankly the going rate is only about 250 quid for a pub, about 350 quid for a working men's club. And to be honest, until you've got yourself established, or you make the intelligent decision to buy a wonderful marketing course, perhaps like, for example, Secrets of Hypnotic Success by myself, telling you how to market yourself a bit more effectively, then you're not really going to make, again it comes down to your perception, but you're not going to make shed loads of money. When you've got a reputation and there's something they want to buy, whether that's because you're the Naked Hypnotist, whether it's because you are the most pornographic stage hypnotist in England, i.e. moi, or whether it's because you just happen to be the one that everyone perceives as a celebrity, Mr. McKenna, then people will come asking for you specifically rather than just going to an agent or ringing you up and going, "Oh, I'm looking for an hypnotist." They'll be contacting companies and going, "I want to book the Naked Hypnotist," or "I want to book Jonathan Royle." And then that's when you start earning serious money and getting the corporate work. So your advertising is important on two levels: A, from a business point of view; B, because your image you put across is going to make it easier for you to get the people hypnotised, because the job is starting before you even get there. Okay. Music. Lights. Chairs. That's a good part. The ideal stage set, whatever the environment is, whether it's a theatre or not, for a stage hypnosis show, is ideally, but obviously you're dependent on the size of the venue, but in a theatre you would have 6 chairs here next to each other, a gap big enough for one chair, gap, and 6 more chairs. So this way you can get around them relatively easy. You can walk down the side, behind. You've got the movement you need. These chairs, in a theatre, if you're in a pub at the end of the day, it's the same visual effect. Unfortunately, you won't have fancy light. Will be positioned so you've got lights in the flies, which is what they call the area above the stage, above you, pointing down towards them, little white pin spots, so it's picking out the chairs. The rest of the stage lighting will be off, so it's essentially dark, and all they can see is like 12 chair silhouettes. And the tabs, which is the industry term for curtains, are open, so they're sort of a third in from either edge. So they're in a bit, but all you can really see is they're sort of making a frame for the chairs. So as the people enter the theatre, they're going, oh look, oh, he's going to be getting 12 people up. Ooh. And it's dark, it's dim, it's got the light, it's that esoteric-y, spooky, weird, stereotypical, Svengali television film type image that they expect. So you're tying in with the expectations and belief systems that are already in place with the majority. So then, your music will begin. It's up to you what you use. I'll tell you now, the majority of stage hypnotists, oh dear, but even I used to, much to my eternal shame, use Thus Spoke a Zarathustra. Can't even say it. Thus Spoke a Zarathustra, or Thustra. It's from 2001 Space Odyssey, the theme music. All this. It gets louder and louder. I'm not even going to attempt to hum it, because singing is not one of my talents. But if you check out 2001: The Space Odyssey, you'll see why psychologically it starts off quite nice and low, and then it gets louder and more dramatic. A similar piece of music that is good from the psychological context of, because remember, a stage hypnotist is seen as being dominant and in control, whereas the therapy side of things is caring, sharing, helping. We're just talking today. Or even group sessions, you've still got to do the dominant in control bit because you're manipulating people to a certain extent. The other one is Carmen Miranda, which was the theme tune to the Omen films, and used on one of the Carmen Miranda. Burana.
It's Camina Burana.
Right.
Like Carlo, used in the Old Spice Head.
That's what I was. Good woman, you see. It was also using it. By who? Carl?
Carl. It's Camina
Oh,
Burana.
I don't know.
Well, you can write it down after.
Yeah.
But anyway, that is one that I've used a lot and a lot of stage hypnotists do. And again, it's got this dramatic thing. It gets louder and louder. So unexpectedly, it starts off sort of Zazu, 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 and then suddenly it fucking scares the shit out of people, especially when they're in a dim theatre and all they've got is a few little pin spots and out of the front of house lights are quite dim. It gives people a jolt, which is good because they don't know what to expect next. They're on edge, they're waiting, they're expecting, they're excited, they're wanting, you know, you're building up all these things that by the time you get them up here on stage, in an environment that they're not used to, they're so on the edge that when you keep moving them around, telling them what to do, they start to get confused, disorientated, and then it's so much easier to chuck them on the floor or whatever.
Is this like if you're organising it all yourself, or have you got someone else doing it?
Well, whatever venue you go to, in terms of a show, you'd still need the music. It's just the difference between whether you've got somebody to press the play button for you or whether you've got, like I use, a remote control mini display, so you can control it yourself.
When you do the stunts with the music, like people making the Elvis Presley stuff,
Mm-hmm.
do you have, are you allowed legally to use any music, or is it in public domain because it's old music, or?
Right, I'll come to that in a minute.
Okay.
All right. So your intro music, loud, dramatic.
I can answer that for him after, if you want, because I use music all the time. So.
All right.
Oh, you can, yeah?
Yeah.
I'll ask you to speak in a moment, David, please. So your intro music's loud, dramatic. It's this dominant, in control, and the Omen's book. It's for some people got that horror film, evil connotation. Like it, a lot of people have the stereotype of the evil hypnotist seducing women into that. I can't imagine when they get any sort of image like that. But some do. And then your voiceover. Meaning introduction, which preferably is recorded onto your mini disc or CD that's in the sound equipment, because if you leave it to a compere or somebody there to introduce you as, and I've had it happen, you know, you go from giving them a piece of paper where they're supposed to, you know, working men's club compere. Right, did you enjoy band like just now? Tremendous. Now we've got a wonderful turn coming on next. Come all the way from, it doesn't say, never mind, but he's come a long way, and please put your hands together and welcome live on stage PTO. I knew I should have put my glasses. Anyway, apparently he's a bit of a singer. Please welcome, he'll tell you. I ain't fucking joking, I wish I was. If you leave it to somebody else to introduce you, they'll give you the wrong name, or they'll say you're a singer when you're a chuffing hypnotist. It's not a good start to the show, it doesn't look professional, and it ruins all that psychological build-up that's going to make it easy for you. So, you would have a voiceover introduction record, preferably, again, I break all the rules in the book, preferably that somebody else has got somebody else's voice on, so that you sound different when you come on, so it does sound like somebody's introducing you, because then you've got the psychological element of these words that your introduction, saying how wonderful you are being said by somebody else about you, rather than you saying them about yourself. And when a third party says something good about you to other people, it's always more powerful and impact than it is saying it about yourself. It's the same thing. You know, when you break it down, hypnosis, stage therapy groups or whatever, it's sales. It's selling an idea, a dream, a concept, a thought pattern, a situation in a certain manner to get a certain result. So your voiceover might say something like, but obviously in a different voice. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together and welcome live on stage Europe's most outrageous hypnotist. Whatever your name is. You're either the most outrageous or you're the world's #1 comedy. It's something that implies you're fucking good. And the music then is turned up ever so slightly louder unless you record it in advance. These little tricks you want. There aren't show business courses that teach this, but this is also relevant to group sessions as well. You can do the same sort of presentation applies at the beginning. The music then becomes slightly louder as you walk on stage or into the centre of the group therapy room. Whatever. The principles can be adapted and used. The music gets a little bit louder because psychologically you're good, you're there. The fact the music goes up a bit, and that is when, ideally, and even in a group therapy session, you know, here, I would have, if we were doing a group therapy session, I don't know which is which, but they'd have been switched off. But the moment it said, ladies and gentlemen, welcome Jonathan Royle, as the music got louder, and as I was entering the stage, on the lights would come. Because visually, psychologically, it gets brighter in the room. This is it. It's happening now. This is good. So the music gets louder, the lights come on, so it's brighter. This is hyping your audience up to get them into this excitable, suggestible, feel-good, into it, excited state. Groups, tremendous. You would then obviously do your show, opening patter. Right, that's the pre-script, which we need to cover briefly later, because everything was said for a reason, but as yet I have not decoded what that reasoning was. We'll do that after. So you say that, then you're into your suggestibility test, induction, getting them up, which we have covered. And then basically it's whatever routines you do during the show until you wake them up. So what routines are you going to do? Well, ideally you're going to use ones that involve a varied selection of props, music and costumes. You could do a show with absolutely nothing like we did this morning, mini show, but it can become a little bit visually boring because everything's just happening with people. Yeah, it's funny, but how much better if one of the people who's licking the ice cream is given a dildo? The audience find out why incredibly funny. How much better is it, you know, if the guy's talking to his testicles rather than saying just give him a tap? Ow, fucking hurt. Rather than just saying give them a tap, give them a rubber hammer that looks real, but as you hand it them, you push it, the hammer end, onto the hand so they can feel its form without saying anything, saying it's right, mate, you know, off mic. So they know they're not going to hurt themselves, but to the audience that looks bloody far more funnier than tapping. Adding music now and again, it's the same thing with any show business act. You've got to go in peak and trough, so you've got to hit them by the bollocks right at the beginning, hence the light, the music's loud, you're on. If you've not got them in that first 2 or 3 minutes, you're fucked unless you're really, really good at turning it around. Which the example script I gave you before is the one I would advise you to use, so to speak, if you were going to be doing this starting out, unless you've already got some form of showbiz experience. Then you're going to know how to gauge an audience. The beauty of being a stage hypnotist is that they don't know what to expect most of the time, so you can get away. Put it this way, you'll get bigger laughs from a line like, you know, a lot of women have said to me, Jonathan, when I was hypnotised, that was better than any orgasm I've ever had. To which I usually say, well, obviously, you've never slept with me then. As a stage hypnotist, you'll get a much bigger laugh with that, comparatively, than a stand-up comedian ever could, telling the same thing as though they were saying it about a hypnotist, because of the context and framing and would you agree with that?
Yeah. Hard work being a comic.
Yeah. But because you're not perceived as being a comic, if you say something even marginally funny, it will get a much bigger laugh, because you're not holding yourself up to be a comic. Unless you do what I do, and just to give you an example, is anyone easily offended in here? No? Good? Oh, no, if you are, fuck off now. No, stop. I am not in the least bit racist, ageist, sexist. I will fuck anything. No, seriously. My intro is actually more along the lines of, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Jonathan Royal, and I go, lights go up, music goes on, and it's good evening! Oh, come on, you boring bastard, let's try that again. Good evening! You will join in if I have to stay here for the next hour. Good evening!
Good evening.
Brilliant. Now, well, that's much better. You know what they say, an audience can smell fear, especially if you've shit yourself before you walk on stage. But seriously, you're all thinking, what's this hypnosis like about? Well, let me tell you. I can assure you, first of all, the chances of this going wrong twice in 1 week are very, very slim. And on a serious note, I have been trained by one of the best. Oh, yes, indeed. I was on the phone to Mr. McKenna earlier, that famous television man. I said to him, Paul, I've got a big, important show tonight with an audience full of lovely people. For comedy reasons, obviously, that's you lot. But full of lovely people. Please don't take offence, take a door, take a gate, but not offence. I says to him, Paul, I need some confidence. And he said, what you need to do is you get yourself 6 marbles and a Jacob's cream cracker. I said, well, I've watched you on television, Paul, thought it was all about this tapping on the face and, you know, a few positive affirmations, and then I'll be confident to walk on stage. He said, no, trust me. If you're doing a show at that place for those nice people and you want them to have a really good time, then you need 6 marbles and a Jacob's cream cracker. What you do is you get the Jacob's cream cracker. Oh, and you also need your dressing room mirror. He said, what you do is you make a hole in the centre of the cracker, okay? He said, because you're going to put this over your willy. I said, the cracker's not big enough, Paul. No, seriously. So I made the hole, and that was it. Got my clothes off. He's on the phone at home. And he obviously wasn't there with me, because he wouldn't be on the phone, you see. And I placed the cracker on my willy. I said, what do I do with these marbles, Paul? He said, well, you put 3 in your right cheek. So I did. 1, 2, 3. I said, Paul, what do I do with the other 3 marbles? And he said, you put them in your left cheek. Or obviously he didn't have marbles in his mouth, so it sounded bad. And it went like 1, 2, 3. I said, Paul, now I've got the marbles in my mouth, and I've got the cracker on my willy. And I'm not quite sure exactly how this is going to give me any confidence for tonight's hypnosis show. He said, bear with me, Jonathan. He said, what you've now got to do, Jonathan, is stand in front of that full-length mirror. So I promptly did, because, you know, the man knows what he's talking about. And he said to me over the phone, he said, Jonathan, what you do is you start playing with yourself. And as you're playing with yourself, naked in front of the full-length mirror with a Jacob's cream cracker on your willy, you say out loud into the mirror, staring at yourself, with a smile on your face, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. So I did. And I'm going, and I nearly choked, because I swallowed 2 marbles. I says, Paul, I swallowed 2 marbles. He said, don't worry, Jonathan, carry on. So I did. And I swallowed another 2 marbles. I said, he said, don't worry, carry on, it'll work, I'm the master. So I carried on, and I went quiet for a while. And that's when Paul revealed to me that apparently when you've lost all your marbles and you're still fucking crackers, then you're confident enough to come on stage to a wonderful audience like you. I thank you. Tremendous. And I tend to go into very politically incorrect gags. Like, you know, has everyone had a great day today?
Yeah. Yes.
Tremendous. Personally, I haven't. Broke down on the way here. I don't know what happened. I just started crying uncontrollably. It was bad. It's been one of those days. I've always done strange things, though, since the day I was born. I came out of the woman in the bed next to my mum. That was fucking strange. Yeah. At the age of 6, I was left an orphan. You fucking hard bastards. It was sadder than that. Come on, at the age of 6, I was left an orphan.
Aww.
Maybe not quite that sad. No, but at the age of 6, I was left an orphan. I asked you, at the age of 6, what did I fucking want with an orphan? And at the age of 7, I lost both my parents. What a card game that was. I've never played... No, I'm telling you, I've never played cards since. I'm scared of winning the bastards back, I tell you. And when I left school, it got even worse. Oh, but I was unlucky with girls. I know you wouldn't think that looking at me. Why did that get laughs? It's not supposed to be funny. But no, the first girlfriend I had, she was half Swedish and half gypsy. She was up all night massaging my clothes pegs. And then there was the girl who was half half English and half French. She only shaved under one armpit. But I was fortunate when I left school, I met a feminist prostitute. Oh yes, she insisted on paying half. And I could carry on, I won't, but actually these days I do about half an hour of stand-up before I go into hypnotising anyone, because I find stage hypnosis so remarkably fucking boring. But the only reason I find it boring is because I've done it so many times, and I think I know exactly how you're going to react, because whether you're hypnotised for real, or we have to embarrass you into it, or whether we have to off mic whisper you and offer you 50 quid and make you look a prat at the end, I know I am going to get a result. So there isn't, in show business, performing terms, that much of a challenge to it anymore, so the buzz has gone out of it, whereas comedy is 150 fucking million times harder than being a stage hypnotist, and getting a laugh is a damn sight harder than hypnotising somebody. So if you ever decide you want to do stage hypnosis, you know what my advice is? And this is serious, I'm not being sarcastic. My advice would be find a local comedy store that has an open spot night, go along, and you try doing 10 minutes of stand-up comedy and getting laughs without getting fucking booed or heckled. Or handling when the audience shouts something out in response to one of your jokes that gets a bigger laugh than what you've just said. You try not falling apart. Do that a few times. It'll fuck your head up. Then when you walk out under the guise of being a hypnotist, and people have got instant either fear or respect or indifference, one of the three. The indifferent ones, I'll just sit there and watch, perhaps be mildly amused, won't volunteer. They'll either respect you because they know somebody who changed their life through being hypnotised, or because they've seen a hypnotist before, or whatever. Or they'll fear you because they think you're going to hypnotise them and shag them, or you're going to make them look a complete tit, or whatever. It doesn't matter, as long as it's the respect or fear, either way, both can be manipulated using the techniques we spoke about to ending up on stage and doing stuff, because, quite simply, if they fear you, what are they fearing? The idea that you can hypnotise them, you can make them do these things, so they're actually hypnotising themselves into that thought process. If they respect you for the same reasons, because they're attaching the same value to you as the hypnotist they saw or whatever, again they're hypnotising themselves into the thought system that you can and will be able to do this stuff. And on that note, we're going to have a 20-minute brew break before the final session of the day, where we're going to wrap up how this all sort of fits together and how it's going to lead into tomorrow's therapy bit. So, 4:20, back in here, please. Thank you. Although tomorrow it will become even more obvious why, even for those of you that have got no intentions ever of doing stage hypnosis, why in actual fact what we've covered today is relevant to doing group sessions and therapy. Which will both be demonstrated, because tomorrow I will be looking for people who have got any issues, phobias, problems, habits, whatever, and we shall eliminate them for you as the best form of example of the right way to go about doing it. So, we got to music in terms of the play on, and then you've got music with routines. So you've got your peaks and troughs. You catch them at the beginning, so that's where I went off on one. And I do that personally through shocking them. Because the last thing they expect is a stage hypnotist to come on and start telling jokes like, you know, what do you call 20 packies in the back of a Land Rover? A good day's fucking shooting. Well, that's the kind of material I use, only because I'm advertised as being the most outrageous adult pornographic hypnotist. The irony of it is, just going back to advertising and branding, these days, and certainly for the past 3 to 5 years, when I have done shows, there's not really anything pornographic about them. Not in terms of what the people are doing. Years ago, yes, I did get people getting the kit off. Years ago in rugby clubs, I did get people genuinely wanking each other off. For real. not imagined. Purely because it was an egotistical, arrogant bastard, realised you could push it to the limit, and the sad part is, through experience, I found you can get just as good a laugh through having the fellas simulate wanking each other off with invisible willies, and in fact it can become even funnier because then you can say, oh no, actually look closer, he's only got a small 2-incher, and the guy starts giving it that. That's actually funnier than doing it for real. It's better leaving something to the audience's imagination, which is part of entertaining, and it's also, you don't get people waiting outside the venue after the show that volunteered wanting to lamp you on. So the subtle approach is better. The content in terms of pornography, or what gets perceived as that, is that when press write-ups about my show, I'll give you an example, then you've got an idea for routines. Oh, there's hundreds of them, clean ones, middle-of-the-road ones, triple X rated ones. On the CD-ROM I'll be giving you to take away at the end of the weekend, which has also got video footage on there. But one review of my show said something like, sexy stage Bengali royal, age blah 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 of such and such a place, entranced the audience with his on-stage antics, bollocks what, when it went into. One woman was spotted sucking a large dildo, whilst another man was pleasuring another man. One man was giving birth to a baby. Women were having orgasms. People were performing oral sex on the hypnotist. It sounds fucking bad. What's the actual truth of the routines? The dildo reference is nothing more than somebody being given one thinking it's a juicy, delicious ice cream. And the person you hand it to, psychologically, they've got their eyes closed, so they don't see what's in the hand anyway. For all they know, it's a plastic ice cream. So that's why there's no resistance on them doing it. And that is also why when you tap them on the shoulder and say, in a few moments' time when they wake you, you're going to really wonder what the hell you've got in your hand. Oddly enough, they will have a genuine look of shock and or embarrassment because they realise it wasn't a plastic ice cream. That's really what's going on. The blowjob reference. I do a routine where I say to a woman, in a few moments' time when I awaken you, you'll realise that the hypnotist, that's the guy wearing the, and then describe what I'm wearing, is the most drop-dead gorgeous person you've ever seen, and you are really attracted to him. But the fact is, the more he ignores you, the more sexually turned on you will become, and if he should click his fingers like this, every time he clicks his fingers like that, each and every time he clicks his fingers, you'll become 100 times more sexually turned on. A bit later on in the show, wake her up, I'm walking past, I'll accidentally drop something, oddly enough, she'll go to reach out, natural, you know, so you've created a situation that becomes funny because she'll be reacting as though she's following you all over the stage. And then at some point I will do the clicky bit, and if need be, off mic, I'll say, come here darling, and yes, you're falling in love now with it. I've already told her come here, but off mic. So when she stands up and comes over, the audience are laughing thinking, fucking hell, this is working well. She'll come over, brilliant, clicking fit more and more, I'll just grab hold of her. If I need to off mic, but generally by this point they've got the idea and they put their arms around you and start kissing you. But if need be, I'll just go, don't worry darling, relax. And if need be, I'll just turn her head so it's this direction, so you've only got to get your lips nearby without actually kissing them, if they're being resistant, and it looks for the audience as though they've actually started necking you. Although I tend to find that it's far more fun to actually pick the fit piece and have a good necking session on stage for real. At some point though, you do pull your mouth away and off mic whisper, just move your head down my body and I'll tell you when to go back to sleep. And all they end up doing is moving the head down your body, and you just go sleep when they get near to your waist level. But at that point all you've got to do is gently push on the shoulder, and it's much easier for them to kneel down, and oddly enough they're then in the position where the head is here, which is perceived by the audience as being, had you not stopped them, they were just about to perform an act of oral stimulation upon you. But it tends to get written up in the media as it was a blowjob routine. So it's just the way things are put across, it's perception, it's semantics, it's the way words can be misunderstood in both a positive and a negative way. Which is why I also say one of the other most important books worth reading is the dictionary. Or a thesaurus, even better. Rather than reading hypnotism books. And I mean this both for stage therapy, selling, for any environment, because one word can have numerous different meanings in different areas of life, in different contexts. And if you understand what that word can mean in different contexts, you can slot it into sentences where it's out of context, but because you know that you're doing this and saying it so casually, it kind of goes by unnoticed by the person who you're saying it to on a conscious level, but subconsciously they will have picked up that's a weird use of that word, and they'll be trying to work out why that word or why that little phrase, which obviously that little phrase or that particular word will be the one that the general meaning to most people on the planet means what you want them to be thinking about. And when the mind attaches itself to a seed planted in there, from little acorns, great trees do grow. And it becomes, that's how to get suggestions into people's heads, whether it's in a conversation consciously, in an instruction environment, a sales environment, or just your personal everyday life, making sure that your partner does the washing up, thinks it's their idea and is happy about it. Whereas in therapy, you're obviously wanting to stop them smoking, lose weight. From the moment you answer that form to take the booking inquiry, if you choose to do it that way, you are actually starting the treatment, or at least you should be if you want a successful result. But that's more of tomorrow. I just want you to see how this is all actually going to knit together and make some sort of sense, hopefully. Right, going back to music. Music routines, i.e. routines with music, just build the tempo up a bit. So if you've done a few routines where you've got them talking, when you wake up in a few moments' time, you'll realise you can only speak fluent Japanese. When you wake up in a few moments' time, you come to the shocking realisation that you're just landed on planet Earth, you're an alien, you can only talk strange alien language, and you can only see things through your right forefinger. When you wake up in a few moments' time, you'll also realise that you've only just landed on planet Earth, you're an alien, you can only talk strange alien language, the only person you understand is the person to the right of you, and you can only see through your finger. And you, sir, when you wake up in a few moments' time, you'll come to the shocking realisation that next to you, the two aliens have landed. You've been studying for this for years. You've trained in alien language, and you are the world's only alien language interpreter. You're going to tell us exactly what they're talking about. Nod your heads if you understand. Oh, this is all no music going on. So, how are you doing today, sir? Whatever fucking shite is their perception of Japanese or whatever. And I believe we're very honoured here today to have with us, and you'll notice I'm sort of acting the part. I'm creating an environment whereby I'm reacting to these people as though I'm in on it with them, as though I believe what they believe. So then we're getting the not one person on their own believing it, the part of a group. Going back to what we were saying before about people liking to fit in. So they don't have to feel daft about acting like an alien or being an alien interpreter, because ladies and gentlemen, we're very honoured today to have here with us, live on stage, all the way from Mars, the first two aliens on the planet. Give them a huge round of applause. So you're making it almost like a talk show. The applause is good for their ego, which is obviously going to make them want to take part more. But also, if they're sat there thinking, who's fucking nottering? Now, let's say they're not hypnotised and they're just playing along, some of them. They're thinking, well, he's a nutter and he's taking part in it with us, so we can't look any dafter than him. So it's easier for them to carry on doing these things, and then obviously you just make a load of banter. And what's it like? Actually, could you just ask them what's it like on planet Earth? And they'll go, yeah, and then some of them will be going, whatever shite. They'll respond, and then this person will interpret, and it becomes funny, and especially if you start asking strange sexual questions, and you get all manner of very creative answers. That's without music, but after a while then it gets a bit too many of these routines without music. It starts going downhill a bit. And it can be hilariously funny all the way through, but you need to build it up and down, up and down. Any good stage show, any good musical, any good film takes you up in your emotions and down and up and down, so that at the end you really feel like you've had some sort of emotional roller coaster ride, but it obviously builds up at the end so that you feel really good. So hence you slot in some routines with music. By that I mean, for example, there's loads of examples on the CD-ROM, but just so you get an idea, it might be something like, when I awaken you in a few moments' time, sir, you're going to hear this piece of music. At which point, I do it by remote control mini display, but you can have somebody who starts your tracks of music for you off stage. When you hear this piece of music and a snippet of Elvis Presley might come on. Whenever you hear that piece of music in this room here tonight, you'll instantly realise you are the man himself. You are the king of rock and roll, Mr. Elvis Presley. And you'll pick up your guitar in front of you, and the more noise the audience makes, the more outrageous you'll become. I give them an inflatable guitar, so that we're using a prop as well to make it visual. Sleep. When you wake up in a few months' time, darling, when you hear this piece of music, Madonna, Like a Virgin, you'll realise you are the woman herself. You are the material girl, the queen of pop, Madonna. And you'll find you've got your microphone on your lap. I give them a dildo, because it's visually funny to the audience. It's only supposed to be a mic, so they're just going to wave it around. It just makes it seem visually funnier. So the actual end result is far greater than the sum of the parts when you break it down. It's the way it's perceived by everyone. And having a little bit of a prop to play with, like your Elvis man, he might not be wonderful at dancing around like Elvis, but at least he can just sort of stand there and jiggle a bit, and it still looks funny if he's doing something like that with a guitar. It makes it easier for the punters on stage to actually get into it. Or, for example, sleep. When I awaken you in a few moments' time, every time you hear this piece of music, Great Balls of Fire, Jerry Lee Lewis, each and every time you hear that piece of music in this room here tonight, you'll come to the shocking realisation that your gonads, your testicles, your bollocks, call them what you will, are on fire. They're red hot on fire, and you've got to grab the nearest thing you can to cool them down. You can guess what happens there. But to make sure it does happen, this is where talking to the audience, as though you're warning them, but because the audience perceive these people are out of it, actually you're telling this person how to react, but the audience don't realise that. So you go, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to keep your drinks, if I were you, for this next sketch, I'd keep tight hold of them, because in a minute, he's going to be trying to grab them. The audience perceive it as you're just warning them, because they think this person's out of it, but he's going to hear it nonetheless and think, right, that's what I'm going to do. Grab a drink and pour it down my pants. Tremendous. Which invariably they do, especially if you've conveniently, although I personally don't bother, but most of my students do, conveniently located a few pints of water near to the stage area, and perhaps off microphone just casually said, don't worry mate, to the left hand side there's some water there, so that they overcome the objection of pouring beer or something down the pants. Water dries out. So then it looks far funnier than it would be. So you see, you break it down, a stage show, into its separate little bits, and essentially speaking, and we're nearly sort of done on that subject, essentially speaking, other than the actual hypnotising them bit and waking them up at the end, a trained chimpanzee can do it. I'm not saying that that will make you a great stage entertainer, but that's the beauty of being a stage hypnotist. There are lots of stage hypnotists out there who, quite frankly, in my opinion, have got the personality of a dead fish. They've got no stage presence, they couldn't tell a fucking joke if they tried, but the audiences will still go away and say how wonderful they are, because they laugh at what the people are doing, and because they perceive that these people have been hypnotised. It's the only It's just about one of the few acts in show business where you can get away with having the personality of a dead fish and still be held up as being a wonderful television celebrity. Ooh, think about it. Costumes. You could technically say tie in with music and props, but they can be props, but costumes, I mean, items of clothing rather than objects. The way I end my show these days, well, one or two ways, rather than doing the stripper, which just about everyone used to do, you know, when you hear this piece of music and it'd be something like either the stripper or Right Said Fred, I'm too sexy for my shirt. And when you wake up and hear this piece of music in a few moments' time, you'll realise you're better than the Chippendales, you're better than Adonis, because you are what approved to every woman in this building tonight. You're 100% man, and the more noise they make, the more outrageous you will become. Which is telling the audience, on the one hand, make sure they do a lot of clapping, which is telling me is the more the audience clap, the more it praises their ego. So you're setting off this. You see the fucked up part now is, you could argue that it's the audience that are hypnotised more than the people who are up here, because of the fact of the way you control and manipulate the situation and the way the audience perceive what's going on, which is far different perception than these people up here. Okay? But the way I now end it is, it doesn't matter how many there are, because I've got loads of different costumes, but I'm talking to everybody on stage, and when you hear this next piece of music, and then YMCA Village People starts playing, and while it's playing for a bit, I'm going, you will find when you hear that piece of music, and then it cuts, you will be the cowboy from the YMCA. You will be, so give him a cowboy hat, gun and holster. You'll be the construction worker, plastic helmet. You'll be the policeman, police hat, truncheon for the other hand. You'll be the, forgotten what the other is, I've got a list wrote down, a cue sheet, or idiot board as we call them in the business, that reminds me at the time. But I've got all different little outfits like a Velcro stud colour, stuff you can buy at a joke shop. Put them on, the audience laugh anyway because they look like twats. But it ties in with YMCA Village People. So when the music starts, all they're essentially doing is YMCA. How exactly is that entertaining? I'm fucked if I know, but because there's this perception that these people are doing it against their will, that's why it then becomes entertaining. And because there's the visual imagery of the fact they're dressed up silly, that makes it entertaining. And because, you know, you've said to them, you know, the more noise the audience makes, the more outrageous you will become, sort of anchoring the idea that clapping's, it's a good idea to be outrageous, they can perceive that how they want. Does that mean they might spontaneously start taking the clothes off? Some people do. Does it mean that you're accidentally, if you believe that you've got somebody who's actually genuinely hypnotised, going to off mic while they're doing the YMCA, walk past them and just say, it's getting really hot in here, just take your shirt off, and discover that then they will, because they're genuinely hypnotised and will react. Or if they're slightly non-responsive, i.e. not hypnotised, you might walk past them off mic. I'm not saying you should, but it just looks funny that they do something you haven't suggested, apparently. And go, you know, it'd look really good to the audience if you took your shirt off. And the chances are, you know, you'd look really good, you're playing with their ego. So they end up doing it. You've not suggested this. The audience are thinking, whoa, this is getting a bit out of hand. You know exactly what's going on. You're in control all the time. But when it looks like it's getting a bit edgy, something's happening a bit unexpected, it becomes more entertaining and exciting for the audience. Yeah? Cool. Covered lights. Oh, well, there is one other trick on lights because we're getting near the end of the show here. The next part is to awaken them all from the trance. So there's 3 ways of doing this. I think it's 3. The first way is the old-fashioned way of literally, you end that routine, you get everyone to sit down, and you put them all back to sleep. Okay? And then you say, I'm talking to everybody on stage. In a few moments' time, and the music begins, and you start playing some music that's kind of uplifting, and, you know, kind of, I personally actually use Simply the Best, but it starts off playing quite quietly on sound level, so at the end, as I get closer to the number 7, music goes 8, 9, and on 10, you're wide awake, and the music goes up, and it's simply the best. Come on, stand up, take a bow. You know, it's the excitement factor again, like the beginning to the audience start clapping there, bowing. You're guaranteed to walk off stage then to a round of applause rather than the sound of your own thing. But you count from 1 to 10, because when you're waking people up, it's always numbers going up, voice tone going up. And the key things is to suggest to them, for those that are genuinely hypnotised, that everything you've said there this evening, or run through it again, I'm talking to everybody on stage. Each and every one of you are going to find that as I count from 1 to 10, you're going to keep your eyes tightly closed until the count of 10. And on the count of 10, and only on the count of 10, then and only then, being totally Pacific. Then and only then you'll open your eyes, you'll be wide awake, and everything I've suggested to you here this evening will be completely cancelled out in every way, shape and form. On 1, it's almost as if all the stresses, tensions, worries, fears and apprehensions of days and weeks gone by are leaving your mind, leaving your body. Right now, as on 2, you'll realise you feel so good inside, it's almost as if you've got a large inner reservoir of willpower, self-confidence and self-esteem that you can draw upon whenever you need to as an automatic reflex action. 3, everything I've suggested to you here tonight completely cancelled out in every way. It's almost as if you're erasing that memory from your personal neck-top computer. As on 4, realising right now that you will never react to any of the words, musics or phrases that in the way or shape you have done tonight. 5, lighter and brighter. 6, it's almost as if every nerve, fibre, tissue and muscle in your body, from the tips of your toes to the tips of your fingers, is being washed with pure spring water, re-energising, revigorating you from tip to toe. 7 and 8, lighter and brighter. 9, coming up out of it, music getting louder. And 10, wakey, wakey, rise and shine, open your eyes. Come on, stand up, take a bow, everyone give them a huge round of applause. In other words, fuck off back to the audience, I want to get paid and go on. That's one way of waking them up. Unfortunately, you end up left with a load of people left on stage. Yes, the audience are clapping, but by the time these people perhaps grab their shirt or this, that, the other, invariably you get left with 1 or 2 people that are still on stage. Your music's coming to an end, you've got to try and get rid of them, and you know, like, thank you, good night, and you've still got 2 people walking off stage as you're walking off. It doesn't look too psychologically good. So, the way I now do it is I have them doing the YMCA, but I told them, you know, when I awaken you in a few months' time, you'll hear this piece of music. You won't take no from the audience as an answer. You want to get everybody in the audience involved in doing this. Now, when the music stops, you'll just wonder what the hell you've been doing. Or if I should tap you on the head, if I should tap you on the forehead, that very instant, that very moment I tap you on the forehead, absolutely everything I've suggested to you here tonight will be completely cancelled out in every way, shape and form. In other words, it'll be as though you're your normal self, just as you were before you went to this building, except that very moment I tap you on the head and you instantly become wide awake, everything cancelled out completely. Not only will you remember to forget and forget to remember whatever's occurred tonight, but you'll also realise that you feel better than you did before you entered this room here tonight. Then very important, nod your heads if you understand. When they nod their head, that's like saying, right, I'm not going to come and pretend that my head's been screwed up afterwards and try suing you. If they don't nod their head straight away, they're an egotistical little shit that wants a bit more personal attention, so you have to go over to them and say, I'm talking to you. You'll realise that, and you go through it again, it's praise their ego because you spent a bit more time with them, and hey presto, they'll wake up. Or it could be that they're genuinely entranced very deep, in which case we'll come to that in a minute, but that's what we call a sleeper.